Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Carl, and today we're going to talk about adding realistic detail to finish off your vignette or your Halloween village. This series is also going to wrap up the Peanuts House tutorial session. I'm essentially finished with it. I'll show you the finished product here in a moment. And I think what I'm going to do next is a toss-up between Pennywise the Clown from Department 56 or 1031 Trick or Treat Drive. It's an older Department 56 piece. I've yet to display it. It's just been sitting around, but I do need something to kind of accompany the Peanuts house on the table that I'm going to use. So I'm not sure really which one that I'm going to do. Tell me in the comments which one you'd rather see me do, either Pennywise or the 1031 Trick or Treat Drive, and I'll take all that into consideration as I'm determining how I'm going to go forward and what I'm going to show next. So to add detail today, I'm going to show you some pretty basic things that we use to help make your vignette or your village pop. I'm going to talk about realistic looking shrubbery or bushes. It's funny because this fiber fill that we picked up from Joann's or Michael's is what we're going to use to build those shrubs. You'll be completely blown away when you see how realistic they look after you're done. And so I'll show you how to do that step by step. We get these potpourri looking pumpkins. We've got enough here to last probably another 4 or 5 or more years. I think you get several hundred of them. We got these on Amazon a year or two ago. We've still got plenty left, and these add pretty good detail to your Halloween scenes. We've got some shrubs that we bought on sale at one of the big box hobby stores, and essentially what I do is pull pieces of it off and then poke holes down in the foam and then put these in for random bushes or shrubbery. I did that a lot on the Haunted Mansion. I've got several pieces installed on this one already. I'll show you how to do that. Looks pretty good. And then finally, for adding some of that detail, we buy dried flowers. You can pick these up. We try to do everything on sale to keep it as economical as possible. We picked up a little bouquet of these, I believe at Michael's, and basically you snip a few of these off, poke them down into the foam with a tool, and it adds a little bit of life around your village. It looks like somebody actually lives in the home. They take care of it. They got some plants growing and things like that. So it does add quite a bit of a flavor to your village. And then also, there's accessory pieces that come with a lot of the villages. They're usually sold separately, and so my advice is if they're people related, I love filling my villages and my vignettes with people. It gives it it's alive. It's alive. There's people there. There's people roaming around the streets. They're having a good time, and so typically what I'll do is I'll buy those pieces along with the main home or the main house. I don't want to regret that later. I don't want to wait and say, well, I'll do it some other time, because next thing you know, they'll be sold out. You'll see them on eBay marked up 300%, and then you really want one, and you're tempted to spend way too much money in doing that. I think we've probably, in this hobby, we've probably all been there and done that. So try to avoid that. So I just try to get the piece with the main piece that I get. And I'll show you both with it and without the accessory and show you the difference that it looks. And then lastly, some sort of a backdrop or a cover. Try to always put something down to put the display piece on, or hang something up to put the display piece, have it hanging behind it as a sort of a backdrop. Gives it so much more flavor. And so I've picked out a piece of material that we bought that I think suits this house perfectly. Right now it's just laying under it, so when I actually display this, it's going to be hanging behind it, maybe hanging or maybe coming up under it a bit too. We'll see how that looks, but I'll show you all that. So without further ado, let's walk over to the village or to the vignette, and let me show you what it looks like when it's complete. Okay, here's the finished piece. As you can see, it's got a little more detail than the last time you saw it, and so let me take this guy off. And so that way, if you didn't purchase the accessory piece, to me, that's what it looks like. And that looks fine. If that's okay with your budget or the way you want your piece to look, that's fine. I prefer to put him right back on there, and it gives the street a more busy feel. You feel like somebody's actually alive and lives in the home. As we zoom into some of the additional details, these are the bushes that I was talking about and telling you about. And so I'll show you how to make those. I've included 4. So when I put the fence on, I knew that I was going to leave room at each end for 4 bushes. We've got flowers up by the walkway, up by the house. And so those are in on each side of the house. The Welcome the Great Pumpkin sign is really a pumpkin patch. That's where they're waiting on the great pumpkin to show up. So I just carried that pumpkin patch out a little bit further with some additional of those potpourri pumpkins. And then in the back, you can see it's sort of fenced in a little bit with a couple of those, a couple of plucks out of that plant that I showed you, that artificial plant. And then lastly, there's the trees. Now these are Department 56 trees. I believe these are the autumn trees. You get a set of 3 when you purchase them. I love the way they look on this piece. I love the way they almost glow. And so for me, it was, this is what I wanted to accent this piece. However, I am going to do a tutorial here coming up very shortly on how to make your own trees. These trees are a little bit spendy. If you guys have bought them, you know, I think they're $25 for 3 trees. So, and I love trees in my village. So I could literally spend hundreds of dollars in just trees alone. And so that becomes not economical, at least where I come from. And so what we've done is determine a different way to make trees, and I'll show you how we do that. And I'll do a tutorial that walks you completely from start to finish on how to build your own fall trees. I don't think they look as good as these, but they look pretty close. They certainly look close enough to be able to put in your village and be happy with them. And then finally, you can see that I've laid this piece of cloth out. I think it's perfect for this vignette. So it's orange and yellow with some, looks like trees in the background, and especially when this is raised up behind the piece, it looks really, really, really sharp. And so this is these are the details that I think finish this piece off, really make it pop, and hopefully you guys can see that you agree with me. It certainly helps to make it look this way. So with that, let's get started on how to build some shrubs. Hey, before we go outside, I want to take some additional time to show you how this works, right? I've got several shrubs that I need to make for the remaining part of my villages this year. And so essentially I've opened a little corner of this. Just reach in and grab a handful out, and then really just kind of pull it apart and roll it into a little ball. Shrubs, as you all know, are different sizes and different shapes, so you don't have to have anything perfect. You can do small ones, large ones, medium size, and just kind of lay these down. This is the first step in creating shrubbery, and it's very simple to do. It's very quick. It's very easy, and you can see that those, while they don't look like shrubs right now, you just wait. They're gonna look beautiful here in a little bit. So the next part is we're going to paint them. We're going to coat them in a brown paint. Recommend some gloves for this process, and I'll do that inside as well. I'm only gonna go outside to spray the adhesive on them. So we can, we'll coat these in paint and then let them dry for a little bit, and then we'll finish them up. Okay, so we're ready to get started, and so I'm just going to throw all of these into this container here, just to kind of keep the mess down. And then really, we're going to take this brown Craft Smart paint, just straight brown, and we're going to add a little bit to each shrub. I just pour a few drops onto each shrub. There's no right or wrong. You just want to cover it. A little paint in this case goes a long way. Okay, that should, I don't know that that'll be exactly enough. We'll see what it looks like when we're done. This is the first step. Gloves are not mandatory. You can get this all over yourself if you'd like. It's acrylic paint. It'll wash out with soap and water, but you basically just, you're trying to get most of the white to turn to brown. Because if something were to show through when you're done, instead of seeing a white shrub, I would like to see something brown, like the branches inside the shrub or something like that. And it doesn't have to be a perfectly coated dark brown. I mean, that's fine. And then just keep doing this and get all of these knocked out, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, while we're waiting on these to dry, I'm going to set those aside and let those dry out of the way. There are some other things that you're going to need for the shrubs. One is a tool. You can see I've used this extensively. It's an old cheap pair of needle nose pliers. You can use tweezers. You could use tongs. You could hold it with your hand. It doesn't really make a difference. I just don't want it all over me. So, and what this does is this is going to hold the shrub as you go to spray the adhesive on it and then completely decorate it before you're finished with it. So something like that's helpful. I use those. The next thing that you're going to need, we picked this up at Hobby Lobby. This is called coarse. It's a flocking material. It's made for shrubs and bushes. It is a foam that has been finely chopped up, but unfortunately it's not fine enough. So we're going to have to pull it apart like we did with the moss on the grass tutorial yesterday. And so I'll put a little bit over in this pan here, and then I will start doing that, enough to at least get a few of these done. A little bit of this goes actually a long way. I don't remember how much this cost. I think it was, I don't know, somewhere between $8 and $10 for this bag. This bag will make probably more than enough shrubs for your village, no matter what size it is. I think this will be enough to last me probably a year or two. And so not a bad deal. And then the last thing you're going to need to pick up is this blended turf. It is a very fine foam, very, very fine foam that has been through a process to get it almost like sawdust. Now, there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube to create some of this on your own using sawdust. I've tried it. I will show you a tutorial on how to do it. I use it to decorate the bases of some of my trees. This stuff is also, somewhat expensive. I mean, I suppose, depending on how much you need of it. It's $10.99. This stuff very rarely goes on sale. We got this at Hobby Lobby as well. You can find all of this, both of these, in the model railroading section. And if you're looking on adding different things to your displays or your vignettes, I highly recommend searching YouTube for model railroad scenery. You will be amazed at some of the stuff that folks are able to make with foam, with this stuff here. This is where, I would love to tell you I created this process. I didn't. I just copied it off of somebody else on YouTube and used it to make my own shrubs. And so now I'm passing this information on to you, which in turn, hopefully you guys will use it, maybe pass it on to somebody else, and we'll just make this hobby and our displays look that much better as a result of doing all this. So the paint is almost dry. It doesn't take long. Now I'm going to go through and chop the rest of this up, and then we'll move, no kidding, outside, and we'll build some shrubs. Hey, before we do that though, the one thing that you are going to need, the other thing you're going to need, is some sort of a can of spray adhesive. We chose the Elmer's kind. I think it was on sale at Michael's when we picked it up. Any type of work, it is just like a paint can. You shake it up, you spray it on something. It's incredibly sticky, obviously, and so it works incredibly well to do shrubs like this. So I'll show you how to do this here in a moment when we go outside. Okay guys, here we are outside and I'm going to spray the first one down. Put a pretty good coat on it. That should be good. You can kind of see how it's almost a frosty look. Then you take it down into the foam and you just stick it in certain spots. It does not have to go all over it. Matter of fact, you don't want it to go all over it. You want some bare spots. And then once that's done, you just sort of smash it down on there, make sure it sticks pretty good. I forget to always go to the bottom side. That's the one downside. Try not to forget the bottom because obviously one of these sides are going to sit down on the platform, so you're never going to see it, but try to get some on the bottom as well. Okay, so once it looks about like that, then you'll take your foam, your blended turf, and essentially squeeze this stuff all over the remaining part to where you're covering up what's left. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to be seeing it from a little bit of a distance anyway, so nobody's really going to notice if you're missing certain areas on it, but try to get a pretty good coverage area. Something about like that. Again, squeeze, tap it off, and that is a shrub. I see an area where I'm going to put a little bit more, so I'm going to add a little more spray, and then a little bit more of this stuff. And don't be afraid to do that to get it to exactly the way you want it. All right. The good thing about the blended turf is it's green and yellow, a little bit of yellow mixed in, so it really looks good when it's done. And you'll see some of the areas sticking through, but you'll never see that from a distance. And then essentially you drop that into your bucket here, and you're done with that one. And then you just continue to do the same process over and over and over again for as many bushes as you want. They're pretty much dry right now. I mean, they're a little tacky, but you could take this right inside and put it directly onto your display platform if you wanted to, and no one would be any wiser. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that'll save you some money if you want to add some shrubs or bushes to your vignettes, your villages, or your dioramas. And now we'll head back inside and show you how to finish off the piece with the flowers and the shrubs, or the plants. Okay guys, we're back inside now, and I've got two of the bushes the shrubs that I just made. They're dry, they look good. I've replaced the first ones up there, or at least I will anyway, here in a moment. But first I want to show you how to install some of this stuff. Honestly, you just take some of these dried flowers and cut a couple off with a pair of scissors to where it looks like it would be somewhat realistic. I use a sort of a scribe tool. You could use any kind of a sharp tool, a small Phillips screwdriver, whatever you got laying around, to make a hole down into the foam where these are going to be inserted, right? So if I'm going to add one here, I simply take the tool and shove it down into the foam, right? Auger a hole out. The grass covers it up pretty quick, so remember where you put it, and then essentially put that right down into that hole. Push it down until it looks pretty good, and then there are your flowers. Shrubs, you just simply place where you think they would look best. I want to kind of mirror the sidewalk here with a couple of shrubs going up that way. And then finally, these little plastic flowers that we plucked off of the big set that we got. Same concept. You take your tool, you find where you'd like it, you make a hole in the foam, and you simply set that down, push it down into the foam. It's not going to go anywhere. You could put a drop of tacky glue on those if you wanted to make them permanent. When I store these, I don't really know how they're going to work, so I may have to replace at least the flowers every year. I don't know. It just depends on, I guess, the way you store them. But that's really about it. The last thing I want to point out is these little leaves really add some pop to the village, and I certainly enjoy having them on there. So these are sometimes when you buy a home from Department 56, or you can buy individual packets of these little leaves. I've bought so many of the homes that sometimes they come with them. So I've got plenty that I just sprinkle on to add a little bit of the fall flavor. I think it looks really, really nice. And I think we're going to call this one done. So guys, hopefully that was a helpful tutorial on how to create realistic details to add to your vignettes, your village pieces, or your dioramas to help make them pop, to help make them give it a little more life, and showcase all the hard work that you've put into these. That's the part of the pride and joy in building these, is to step back and take a look at them when you're finished. So certainly appreciate you joining in. We're going to be doing, again, either the Pennywise vignette or the 1031 Trick or Treat Drive. Still haven't made up my mind on which one I'm going to do, but that'll be coming up here shortly. And then again, I'm going to do a tutorial on how to create your own trees for your dioramas. And I'll just do a short tutorial on nothing but trees. So watch for those. If you like what you see, click the like button, hit the subscribe button. Certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.